If there was an Olympic medal for people pleasing, I think I would have won it. For many years, for decades, I was a people pleaser, a well-practiced people pleaser. It started from an incredibly young age, trying to please my mum. Then it became trying to please my teachers, my friends, employer. In fact, in my 30s, a colleague of mine said, "Oh, you're amazing. You get on with everyone. Whoever's in front of you, they like you, you get on with them." And my job was, I was an account manager. I had to connect and get on with and communicate with people, all levels of organisation, from director to shop floor. And he said it as a compliment. But as he said that, what struck me was, yeah, but who am I? Who's the real me in all that? And I couldn't tell you. I was a yes man. And I couldn't tell you who I really was. Okay, that made me pretty good at that particular job because I got on with people. But it wasn't very satisfying because I didn't feel I was making a difference. I wasn't sharing my thoughts, my feelings, what I thought we needed to do. I wasn't leading. I was following. And I wasn't leading in my life. I was drifting, following prompts from life, responding to what I thought I needed to do to be in connection with people, to not be rejected. I once, many years ago, heard this Vox Pox on the radio where they went down the street interviewing people and they were asking people, how do you feel if you knew someone hated you? And of course, everyone said, oh, I'd hate that. I wouldn't like that. But I think if we're being our true selves, not everyone can like us. We're all different. We're all unique. I think it's inevitable if we're just being ourselves, some people just won't resonate with us. That's okay. There's a great quote, I'm going to put it up. Bernard Baruch says, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." So those who are close to you, care about you, love you, they're not going to reject you because you say something that they disagree with. Or we don't need to be a people pleaser for those who really matter to our lives, who care, who love us for who we are. And I think that's sometimes the alien concept, that we're loved for who we are. I know that's something I missed. I missed that kind of signal, that message growing up, that I was loved for who I was, not what I did. It seemed to me growing up, if I do this, oh, I feel more loved. If I do this, I get shouted at. Or if I do this, my mum's really pleased with me. And I worked out what I needed to do to not be rejected. And it was an alien concept that I was loved for who I was, in my being, my essence. What if you could know you're loved for who you are? Your essence, your being. For me, that's true freedom. And we won't become this selfish, arrogant gits. That when we come back to our truth of who we are, knowing we're loved for who we are, that's a place of love for ourselves and love for others. When we become this kind of selfish, arrogant or narcissistic, that's a different bunch of insecure thinking. But when we're secure in the love, that we're loved for who we are, that's our soul. That's a place of love for ourselves and love for others. So I think people pleasing is rooted and grounded on this idea that we're not loved for who we are in our being. And we're constantly fearing rejection, constantly working out who we need to be, what we need to do to avoid rejection, to avoid judgment, negative judgment. But it's actually judgment of ourselves that causes the problem, not other people's judgment. Other people's judgment can sometimes be like touching a bruise of our own judgment. If part of us believes what they're saying, we're going to feel that. If in our heart of hearts we don't believe what they're saying, we don't believe it's not true, it's just their opinion, we're not triggered by it, we're not affected by it, we're more immune to it. But it bothers us because it actually triggers our own thinking. It's our own judgment of ourselves that causes the insecurity, not other people's judgment. The more we know we're okay for who we are, the more we have that self-love and self-compassion, that we know we're not perfect, but we're loved for who we are. And when I first felt that unconditional love, I expected to feel like being hugged, but no, it was that self-compassion. It was me recognizing I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes. I do hurt people. I do let people down. But I'm still lovable. I'm still worthy of love. That was a revelation to me. There was the lack of self-compassion was causing my problem, not the fear of other people's rejection. It was the lack of self-compassion. What if you could have that self-compassion to know that you're okay, you're loved for who you are? Even though we make mistakes, we screw up, we're human. You don't have to be perfect. You're not perfect. We don't need to be perfect. We can love who we are. We can be who we want to be. And if we're living to other people's thinking, trying to please them and trying to work out who we need to be, that's exhausting. We never create the life that inspires us. We never feel aligned to our truth. There's a Steve Jobs quote I love. It says, "Your time is limited. So don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped in dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of other people's opinion drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." I love that. I love that. Your heart and soul knows. And when we live to our heart and our soul, it can be driving like in a thick fog. You can only see a few feet in front of you. It's just what's next? What's next? What's next? When I left my corporate career, I had no idea what I wanted to do next. I really thought I'd have it sorted by the time I actually walked out that door and handed my past back. I didn't. But I had to honour that step and that trust is what's next. It will come. Stepping out of off the conveyor belt in stepping into an adventure. Yeah, it felt scary at times, absolutely. But in my heart, I knew I just had to do it. Because time is limited. I didn't want to get to the end of my life and have the regret of not doing that. And sometimes we actually forget time is limited. I'm reading a book called 4,000 Weeks, and it's recognizing, that on average, a human has 4,000 weeks in our lives. It is limited. And we can obsess, and that would be fear of death. Or we can just acknowledge our time is limited, and that sometimes helps us work out what's really important. What's really important to us? What's important to your heart and your soul? What if you could have that self-compassion, that self-love to know you are loved for who you are? And you can honour your heart and your soul. One day never comes. What if you can begin today? Loving you.